Alright, this is Mr. Timchek. Today we are going to be looking at how to make our framework for our footers. So, you can see here that we're not actually out on a job site and dirt and everything like that. We're in the shop, but just going to try to simulate it as much as possible what it actually looks like. So, you can see our framework's made out of 2x lumber, and we nailed it together with duplex nails. And duplex nails have two heads on it. That's because this is temporary framing. The concrete gets poured in here, and all these nails got to be pulled off, and this whole form got to be disassembled. Having that extra nail head right there, so you can easily get your hammer there and pull those nails out when you're ready to strip all the forms off after the concrete has dried. It saves time. If you're just using regular nails, you'd have to literally dig all these nails out. So this way, all you gotta do is latch onto the nail head that's sticking out and pull out your forms. So one thing I can't replicate right here is all around here would have stakes driven in the ground. And that would also be holding the framework together. So these stakes would be driven in the ground. One thing I am going to show is how to make a quick stake. All right, out of 2x lumber. So I'm just going to angle the camera down here. All right, try to do this as easy as possible with the circular saw. Now these are just stakes. They're going to be driven in the ground. We don't even have to measure anything really. All you got to do is take your circular saw, put it at a sharp angle, and just make a cut towards the middle of the board. Flip it over, make a cut towards the middle of the board again. All right, now we have a nice stake for pounding into the ground, and it's good to go. If you want to go a step further, you can also cut this way if you want a 4-sided stake. All right, so if you want something like that, all right, that's fine. I can clean that up a little bit maybe. All right, so if you want a 4-sided one, it's driving to the ground, you can do that as well. All right, but just imagine these stakes would be pounded. Let me tilt the camera back up. All right, would be pounded about right here, all right, on the ground. All right, I'm just going to pause for a second so I can raise up the camera. We can see inside the form itself. You can see that we have these holders here for the rebar, so it holds it off the ground. They're called chairs, all right, because the rebar is going to sit on top of it. So first thing we got to do is cut our rebar. And here's rebar right here. And the point of rebar is that it's going to reinforce the concrete. Without rebar in the form, the concrete would crack. There'd be nothing for it to stick to, and it would not be good. So we need to have plenty of rebar in here, but it can't be sitting on the ground. So we have these chairs, and these chairs lifted up so it's not laying on the ground. If it laid on the ground, it would not help the concrete form at all, because it would only be sticking to the bottom and not the middle. So all around the concrete can kind of form to it. All right, so we're going to cut some rebar here. All right, what I want to measure, let me get my tape measure. I got a million tape measures and never have one handy. Measure how long I need it. All right, I don't want it touching my forms. Okay, so it's 20 inches from the back of the form to the front of the form, but I want it about an inch away from either side. So I'm just going to make it 18 inches, and I need 2 at 18. All right, that's going to be sitting there inside the form. So I'm going to move this down again. I'm going to show how we're going to cut our rebar. So how we're going to do that is Just measure out here. Oops. $18, roughly about right there. Gonna clamp down my bar, and you can use a multitude of tools to cut this, but I kind of find that the Sawzall for this 3/8 rebar works pretty well. All right, nice and pretty. All right, next we gotta start tying the rebar together. All right, now that we have the rebar set in place, we have to tie these intersections together. Now we could bend it. I mean, that's fine. Sometimes it's hard to bend rebar, especially if it's like 5/8. This way is fine. This is just also just showing you a different way of doing it. You could just bend it and have, that way. That would definitely work. But I just want to demonstrate how to tie rebar together so you can get an idea. So I'm going to reposition the camera here to have a better angle to how to tie this. Way to tie it is called a saddle tie. There it is right there. All right. It goes underneath two of them. All right. And then it goes on top of two of them. And then you tie it and twist it together, and you're good to go. So kind of how to do this. Hopefully I'm not blocking the camera. All right. It's harder with small pieces because they're not very weighty. All right. Take about 12, 16-inch pieces. All right. So you're gonna go under the bottom one, over your top, under your bottom. All right. Get that nice and tight. Okay. And then you get your linesman's pliers, and then you twist. And you kind of pull up as you're twisting to get nice and snug and tight. All right, so you should be able to hold it like that and trim off, all right, your excess. All right, so there's other ways of doing it. So I'll take this off. All right, let's see where we actually need this at. So if I reposition the chairs over here. All right, so this one was like this. You can see where this needs to be tied. All right, so you tied about up here. Usually it'd be tied in place, but I'm trying to show you a little bit better of what I'm talking about. All right, so it's got to be tied right there. You could just do something simple, even though I kind of like the saddle tie personally. All right, it gets it nice and tight. Get about 12, 16 inches what you need. All right, fold it in half. All right, and you could just do something simple. All right, grab your linesman. You can just start it off with your hands if you want. You're gonna probably tear up your hands after a while. You just gotta tie it tight. All right, I kind of like to get like that. Get that nice and tight. Hold it in place. I'm kind of pulling up as I'm going. All right, there we go. Okay. Not always knock down your wire. All right. I'm just gonna move this. I'm gonna tighten up a little bit. All right. Grab some more wire. I am definitely not a rebar tire by no means. Some guys can definitely do this fast, but I guess I'm serviceable enough. All right, so it's crossed this way. I'm going to cross it this way. And just going to twist tie it. I like to start it off with my hand if I can. All right. So I'm pulling up. All right, and there we go. All right, crossed on both sides. It's definitely together. Now I'm going to lay it in my form. All right, and now, whoop, you're good to go. So what still needs tied off is this one, and then we'll be good. So our last piece here is our vertical. All right. So it needs to be bent just a little bit so I can get it in there a little bit better. Got the vertical rebar in. I know it's not perfect. All right. It's tied on. I mean, it's a small demonstration, so just giving you a feel for what it is. But you do need your vertical rebar sticking up so you can attach it to your foundation wall up here. Like I said, this is just a demonstration. All right, definitely not 100% what it would look like out in the field, but kind of get the point. But one thing about your vertical is make sure you have your orange cap on top so no one gets impaled and you're good to go. All right, so this is pretty much a simulation of what it looks like inside the concrete form. All right. Everything tied together. You need that steel reinforcement bar in there so your concrete doesn't crack. You need your chairs to raise it up so it's not sitting on the ground. And this is pretty much what we're going for.